everyone, and welcome back to the audio version of Pop Off the Clock. I'm Brenda.
And I'm Josie. We're so happy to be back, even though it's a little weird, but we're trying to do the best we can in the situation, but at least we're providing you guys with our monthly book club, and we just couldn't not do it.
Yeah, because we had been doing such a good job so far in the year, with our book club, and unfortunately we're figuring out the whole studio thing, so we just definitely wanted to cover this and let you all know the book for December as well. But in the meantime, let's start discussing our book for November, which was Britney Spears' book, The Woman in Me. I typically read the synopsis, but me and Jocelyn did not buy the book. We listened to the audiobook.
Which was a very interesting experience because when you do audiobook, you probably know it kind of guesstimates how long you will take to read it. We had been reading some really big books, apparently, because most of them were 14 hours. And then when I saw that this was only about 5 hours and 20 minutes, I'm like, what? Like, that's it? That's it? Her life story? But again, it was not narrated by Britney Spears. Mm-hmm. It was Michelle Williams. How did you feel about that?
I think she did an incredible job as a narrator. I feel like there was moments there where she sounded kind of like Britney. I don't know if she was kind of going for that whole acting thing and like trying to portray her as much as possible, but I think she did a really good job. Obviously, there's awkward moments in the writing, so I feel like she held her own by powering through those kind of awkward little snippets like
here
and there.
The Kevin Federline.
Like the yo.
Yeah, it wasn't even Kevin Federline, unfortunately. That was Justin Timberlake. But overall, what's your rating for this book?
I am going to give it a 4.5. It's a memoir, so it's kind of, I always feel bad kind of rating them. There were some moments where the writing was kind of all over the place. I feel like she kind of glossed over some things, but she did go in pretty deep, so I'm going to give it a 4.5.
I'm giving it a 3.6, and I think that even though it is a personal story, a lot of the very impactful years were very glossed over, especially towards the end of the conservatorship. I think that I know a lot of years she just played along with it, but I think she could have dived deeper into the moments where she kind of realized, like, I want to be out of here, and her moments in court, and I guess more of the, how when the whole Free Britney movement happened and, like, how it kind of, like, was underground and people were like, oh, it's just these crazy fans. I would have loved to know now, like, what was the first time she heard about that, and, like, what did her dad must have been like, this and that, like, you better not. And also, all the time she would, like, post on Instagram, but even though she was so surveillance, like, and people were like, oh, these were, like, secret codes for us. Like,
I'm also curious, like, at what point did they stop working on the book? Because obviously she's had so many developments in her life. Like, she was married to Sam, now they're divorced. Like, obviously it's prior to that, but I don't know if she glossed over it because they were too much for her to discuss. I don't know. Remember, because some things were also taken out. I don't know if some of those things were not approved by the attorneys or whatever, but it was. Let's get into these questions. You already gave your rating. Yes. So let's go with the first one.
So Britney said, tragedy runs in my family, quote. Discuss the tragedy and the impact on the several members of Spears' family, including Britney's father. I mean, when she gave that backstory of her whole, like, it started from June, like, her great-grandmother or her grandmother, and how she died, and it was just like, it has been a family of just tragedy, a cycle of tragedies.
Did she have mental health issues? It's been a while since I've heard the book, so I kind of forgot.
So I believe it was like postpartum.
Oh, okay.
Just like kind of like her, and just to think about like every, that just, it's like family history, like it's a cycle, and unfortunately she was caught in it, and even though she had all these resources, she was in the 2000s and such, you'd think
mental health isn't the thing. It wasn't the thing back then. And it was really interesting to hear about her upbringing and her father's alcoholism, because when I was a kid, like, for example, with her mom, I know that she had this book that she did with her mom, and they look so happy. I was like, wow, I really want a relationship like Britney and her mom does. But it was just so interesting to learn the truth of what that relationship was actually like, and just how how her father really was. I
Mhm.
felt for her growing up.
And how I never realized, like, how absent he was, and he would only pop
Mm-hmm.
out when it was convenient for him, especially, like, I remember watching, like, those, like, The Crib ones or, like,
Mm-hmm.
Diary, like, "I'm Britney Spears, you think you know, but you have no idea."
Yeah.
And, you her dad was there, and you're like, "Oh, how cute," like, this, like, Southern family that are just supporting
Each
the
other.
daughter, and
Yeah.
come to find out she was by herself majority of the
The whole
time.
time. And even, I don't know if you remember, she was already in the conservatorship, but we didn't really know anything about it. It was when she was doing womanizer video, and it was behind the
Mhm.
scenes where her dad was like, "Oh, that's my baby girl." Like, it's just so deceiving how he was actually just never really caring for her. It's
And the
crazy.
fact that he went to her office and was like, "I'm Britney Spears," and now I'm like,
Yeah.
that's so twisted in the head. Like,
Mhm.
the fact that any human would say that, but your father would say that,
Yeah.
it's kind of weird. But just moving on to kind of, she was a child star. Do you think that
Mhm.
the press was fair and appropriate to teenage Britney?
Oh, absolutely not. They I feel like that was the era where men and tabloids fixated on young women, and there was no awareness of how wrong that really
Hmm.
was.
I do have to say, though, that even though it 100% is wrong in the press area, the industry was like that too. So
Mhm.
they fed off of each other, and unfortunately, she was the victim of both greedy sides that just
Mhm.
wanted to make money off of her teenage sexuality and just like the taboo of that, And I think she was totally, it was not fair at all.
And but also I feel like she in herself, she was like, these are things that I wanted to do. Like that photo shoot she did with Rolling Stone where it was,
Hmm.
what it showed. I feel like she embraced being a woman, but she wasn't a woman yet. And I feel like this industry grew her up so much where she felt like she was like an older woman, but she wasn't. She was still a kid.
And I feel like mentally she's still there. Like, I think she just
Mhm.
like stopped.
Yeah.
Like, trauma, like, literally stopped at
And
whatever
that
age
does
it was. Yeah,
happen.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And then, just leading into kind of how appropriate and fair it was, we obviously saw how the press spoke to Justin Brittany. What differences did you see in the role gender played in those situations? It is so sick to see, like, Justin Timberlake's such a loser. Like, they would have, like, high five him because everyone thought that
He
he
took
took
his
her.
her virginity,
And
like
and to only find out that it wasn't true and that he was like a serial cheater, and yeah, she cheated too, but
she loved him, I think, more than he loved
oh,
her,
100%.
and then just took advantage, like, just like everyone else in her life, he just took advantage of her, and it's unfortunate that that was her first love, and I feel like through the writing and through the book, you could tell that she, still cares for him.
Yeah, no, it kind of was unsettling to see how often she would bring up like Justin, even though when
Yeah.
she was married to Kevin Federline, like,
Mhm.
oh, there's Justin like living his life and I'm over here. And I'm just like, it probably sounds harsh, but I'm like, girl, are you okay? Like, how are you? You've been through a couple relationships after him, but that really shook her up. And I think that not having a support from a family or friends just like got her stuck there.
It was like a young love. It's like those young loves, your first loves that you'll never forget, but there's a lot of trauma with that first love,
And
and I
because she wasn't in the appropriate environment, she just never was
Mhm.
able to let go of that. And it was kind of weird. And something that, we spoke about before we even read the book because
Yeah.
it was grabbing headlines was the abortion part of it.
Mhm.
Brittany's abortion on her life. She talked about when it happened and then what happened afterwards. Were you surprised that no one knew about Brittany's abortion except for Justin and Felicia?
I mean, it was a shock to everyone when we found out about the snippets from the book
Hmm.
because, I mean, everyone assumed that that video
Hmm.
was in reference to it, which somebody later disputed. But I feel like that just kind of adds to the mystery of Britney Spears, but also like all the trauma she's been through, like throwing an abortion in there, like, and I
Hmm.
feel like Britney, like she even said she's wanted kids, like that's what she wants. So yeah, I can only imagine what that
Do you
experience.
think she was regretful or
Oh
just
yeah.
like just traumatized by the situation she was in? I don't know. I feel like she doesn't really. I don't think her writing alluded to the fact that she was forced into it,
Mm-hmm.
but she was definitely not brave enough or not confident enough to
Say no.
say no.
Because imagine if she wouldn't have said no. I think Justin would have broken up with her. It would have been a big thing.
Mm-hmm.
It was easier for him if she did it. It would hide everything. You know, I don't know.
But I also wish, like, even if she was getting the abortion, like, the way she did it, like, at home with the pill.
Oh,
and
yeah,
like
that was
is
so bad.
that itself is so you kind of see a pattern where there's just these traumatic moments in her life where she doesn't get help afterwards, isn't in the right environment to
A lot of the
overcome
men
it.
in her life have let her down pretty bad.
And a woman too, like, I'm very shocked by
Mhm.
her mother's
Oh, yeah.
part in this. But just sticking with Justin, Brittany's experience of shame after their breakup with Justin, how did she cope with that situation? I don't like we just referring back like how she did not like she's not okay. Like,
Mhm.
and she's not okay even in her other relationships for that. I do want to add to that. Do you think Justin's freaking out about this book? Like, we haven't heard from him
I think that he is laying low.
on
I
purpose.
think he's waiting for the fallout to settle
Mhm.
because obviously the hype was as soon as the book came, you know. I feel like he has been on a downfall for a while now, and this just kind of added to his downfall. I think he's gonna lay low for a while. Some people are suspecting that she brought up Justin and she's doing this on purpose because he's like trying to bring back his career a little bit more, but I don't think it's intentional. And you know, he has lived his life in the public eye squeaky clean for so long. Like, she has got nothing but just
Mhm.
the negativity, and it's finally her time to say her truth. So if he gets heat from it, I mean,
Yeah,
sorry.
and I don't even think like she went that mean. Like she
No,
was
no,
just
no, no.
saying definitely her
She
side of
was
the
just saying the
story.
truth.
Absolutely, it was like her side of the story. Nothing very like, oh, I hate Justin and we should all hate
Mhm.
him. I feel like they're even deep down. I think she still has love for him, which is
Absolutely.
heartbreaking, but like very much the type of person she is.
Mhm.
Now, let's discuss the changes in Brittany's adolescent sister, Jamie Lynn, and how their relationship changed and why.
I was really surprised how evil Jamie Lynn Spears was as a kid. I was
So,
shocked.
I think a lot of people, like, I think she brings up a good point where she's like, her and her older brother got a different version of lives. Like, I
Yeah.
think, she and her brother saw her parents struggle, but by the time Jamie Lynn was a baby, Brittany was in the, going off on this trajectory of being famous. So she never had to suffer. And unfortunately, that comes with
Yeah.
her being a brat. And Britney Spears even mentioned the Zoe 101 thing that she like confronted.
But also when Jamie Lynn questioned like, why are you buying us houses and stuff, like, she's trying
Mhm.
to help her family. Like, why are you questioning it? It's just very much spoiled brat. The fact that she was in on the whole conservatorship thing, like, it's really unfortunate because the public perception at the time was that this is a close-knit family. Brittany is like the best older sister
Mhm.
ever. Um, yeah, Jamie Lynn was a brat.
Absolutely. And then when she would talk about like, oh, I have all these vacation homes, but because I'm working, I never go into it. But
Mm-hmm.
till this day, like Jamie Lynn and her kids
Enjoy
enjoy it.
her whole family just enjoys the fruits of her labor, and while they are sane, it's sad that Brittany had to lose everything, and they're still good and they're still set for life, and she is it's questionable how she is doing sometimes.
So we definitely see her mental health decline during her pregnancy and during postpartum. So what mental health support did Brittany lack during her pregnancies and early years of parenting? So she kind of talks about how she was like so mean during her pregnancy, like to a point where she did go confront a teenager on her little sister show, thinking that she had been bullying her sister and then that she was like nasty. And then it got to a point after having her kid, she had postpartum depression and then she got pregnant again. So it was just a back to back of emotional up and down. And again, mental health is not a discussion post. Like, to think that people thought this woman was insane and it was just postpartum depression,
Yeah.
which can be treated if you go to the right people with some medication. And to think that people are like, oh, that's enough for conservatorship, like, that's ridiculous.
So I'm curious if all of this would have played out in this day and age, how the public would have treated Britney, if she was going through everything now, where mental health is obviously a topic of conversation. People are a little bit kinder. It's really unfortunate. She got the worst of the times to be a celebrity. That's when the paparazzi became a thing. That's when, all of these things were posted online, TMZ, like everything. It's just so unfortunate that she had to go through all of this as this kind of world was evolving.
And the other thing is, during her early years of parenting, I also think, like, you have to remember, like, she's from a small town in Louisiana, and when we would see her, maybe her babies in the car seat, like, that's
probably their
life.
life.
Yeah, it's common in these small towns. Like, we live in a small town and we see that. So I could only imagine, like, how harsh people must have, these humble parenting skills that she has, because she is from such a small town that they were being criticized in such a big stage.
And also, I feel like she didn't have the best examples as of parents. So it's this sense of kind of doing it alone. You don't really have your family because you're going through all of this, and you don't have great examples of how to do it. So I just feel like she's just had so many obstacles in her life. I mean, I'm surprised that she's made it this far, honestly.
And, that's that point in her life when she is having kids is with Kevin Federline. The fact that this man was treating her so poorly.
I know.
Like, you'd think he'd be, like, on his knees, praising her, like, you are married to the Princess of Pop, and he's running away from her, and she's begging and chasing him to make this marriage work. Like, that is so ridiculous. Like, till this day, I think, like, she married down, he married up, and there he was just trying to be a rapper.
And he's probably still profiting off of her because child support, he's taking care of the kids. And he took away the kids from her. And it's like, that's why her relationship with them is just so, like, I don't even know, because the last time weren't they moving to Hawaii?
Yeah.
And she wasn't making she couldn't even have the things that she wanted, her kids with her all the time. I mean, she had everything taken away. I don't know.
It's so ugly. I think they're like 16 and 17 now, so they're close to becoming 18. But unfortunately, it doesn't seem like they want to have the best relationship with their mother.
And I'm curious if they've read this or heard what she said about it.
I don't want to say like they're brainwashed, because I'm pretty sure they, as kids, they saw like, the really ugly side of their mother, and that could traumatize you. And maybe their father wasn't the best person to explain what their mother was going to. So I don't want to be
and also, they were really close to her dad, right?
Until that incident where he hit one and they put a restraining order.
Oh, man, I just thought of a question right now. Oh, I forgot what I was going to say.
I also do think, like, even when we talk about her relationship with the men, they're just so glazed over. Like, Kevin Federline, like, yeah, they got married. Justin, okay. But then even when she dates that...
that guy.
The agent,
yeah,
which I totally forgot about him. Like,
too.
he's very, like, blah. Like, she doesn't talk about... Like, do you not have a conversation with the man you're about to marry about, like, hey, like, help me get out of this conservatorship? Do you really think... Like, I wouldn't want to date a man who thinks if I think I shouldn't be in a conservatorship, and the man I'm about to marry does think that, I'm kind of like, what? And she just says, she kind of like plays it off like, oh, we just fell out of love the moment he became a co-conservator. But I'm like, that's kind of big. Like, what are you talking about?
I have a question. Do you think that she wasn't completely honest about whether she abused drugs or... Because, obviously, once she has her kids, that becomes a time where she's going out with Paris Hilton, Lindsay Lohan, and people assume that she's on something and that she's an alcoholic. But she says that's, like, not the truth. Yes, I would go out. Yes, I would have some drinks, but it wasn't anything as what was perceived. Do you think that was the whole truth?
I don't know. Like, it's very hard to say that, because for all we know, maybe she's just kooky and crazy, and then just the mental health was on top of, like, crazy as in like silly, and then the mental health on top. But I really don't know. Like, it's really hard to believe that, just because that was the scene. And unfortunately, a lot of people do self-medicate when they're not being treated right. So I just don't know what the odds of like her not following the pattern of that is. I never really thought about that. I just like, yeah, she wasn't tricky.
Also, with just the book in general, do you feel like there were moments where she maybe exaggerated or didn't give the full truth? I feel like she didn't give full truth.
No, 100%. I think one of them was like that time where she that she locked herself in with her son and they called like the police.
That's true.
Like I feel like you might have been acting a little erratically. Like I do think that there is a point where the police, you must have been acting somewhat erratic for there to think there's a sense of danger.
Yeah.
Like there's a difference between like, oh, she doesn't want to give up her son because she loves him, as to like, I feel that the baby's in danger being in a room with her, like, because you could have easily just called like the lawyers and, hey, the law says you have to give the kid back to their dad. But the fact that it was now like a wellness check and all that stuff, like I remember it being covered like in the paparazzi, and I remember it being portrayed such like she was having a mental breakdown and that she was like so erratic and like people paparazzi. I remember it being a helicopter shot at her house. So I don't know, like I think there was some dramatization. Just because I don't really think she's like a great dancer, and she would talk about how great of a dancer she is. So,
and I'm curious, like, Britney wasn't the only, person at that time that was a young woman that transitioned to an older pop star. Like, there was Christina Aguilera's. They didn't go through similar experience. Why do you think this happened to Britney?
Because of the support she had.
Yeah.
I think her parents, at the end of the day, it's all about parents. Like, and or the people you surround yourself with, because like even look at the girls that are like succeeding till this day, their mom is right next to each other. Like Lindsay Lohan, like her mom was there but in a bad way, and her father too. Taylor Swift, succeeding.
She has great parents.
Her parents have always let her. Miley Cyrus, but nothing compared to like, she was a rebel, but she wasn't out like having wellness checks on her, like her mom was always there with her. Selena Gomez, her parents weren't with her. Like Demi Lovato, her parents weren't with there. Like, it is known that Demi Lovato was sent to LA and she lived with Selena Gomez without her parents for like the pilot seasons.
Oh, okay.
So her parents were with her, and it doesn't even, I mean, it might be because, your parents have to work and they're still trying to provide for the other half of your family, but I think it has to do a lot with parents and
your upbringing and the support system and the people that are there for you when you are thrust in society and the world like that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I really do think that.
And I think Christina Aguilera was really, like, her mom was there. Her mom was a single mom, but she was, like, there.
Yeah.
I'm actually surprised Christina Aguilera wasn't, like, mentioned a lot.
She
like,
wasn't. Also, like, she never mentioned, like, kind of highlight pop culture moments. Like, she kind of glazed over her introduction to Madonna. She never spoke about the kiss. Like, those were, like, pop culture moments.
Yeah, and like
and I feel like it was important to her as well.
And like when she hung out with Lindsay Lohan, she talked about Paris being nice, and she was the only one that kind of went with her. But even like Paris also didn't have a good upbringing. Like her mom was very absent and saw her as like a problem child. So I don't know. It's interesting.
I think it's the family and then the times of growing up as a celebrity at that time where the landscape of being a celebrity completely changed.
So do you think that Britney's attack on the paparazzi card was justified?
Absolutely. I would have done the same thing. I would have done the same thing.
Like, I think it's like, I'm always like, this is part of the game, but I also understand she was at a breaking point, and it was
also
just an umbrella.
Shaving her head and just saying, like, I was just so tired of being what people wanted me to be. I wanted to be ugly, so people could just leave me alone.
Yeah, that's totally
like, how unfortunate. How sad is that?
The other one, do you think the conservatorship was granted? Like, was warranted?
I think that she should have had somebody be there for her, but I don't think a conservatorship was very necessary.
I think I think that a conservatorship became needed during the conservatorship, if that makes sense. So basically, I think she got to the point of needing a conservatorship because of what was happening in her life. Like, I believe the medication she was put on, I believe that everything she went through during the conservatorship has messed her up to the point that, you know what,
Mm-hmm.
maybe she does need guidance. And I think it was said, like, even during the trial, that's another thing. Like, we didn't really go through the trial a
Yeah.
lot. I don't think she ever fought to end the conservatorship at the beginning. It was like, just don't make my dad the conservatorship. And then her, you kind of see it in the, or hear it in the book, that her lawyer eventually like filed completely just to like get rid of the conservatorship. But her
Mm-hmm.
goal was just to get rid of her dad as the main guy.
Yeah.
So I do think she might have needed one, but I don't think when
Somebody
it
that
was
she can
given,
trust.
when
Yeah.
it was warranted, I don't think she was at that point in life. I think she just needed help. And then, unfortunately, being in that conservatorship, especially that drug that she said that was given to her great grandma, I think that
Lithium.
like that
So
messed her up.
the part that really broke my heart was when she was sent to that mental institution. She said that they were just putting me on drugs that just made me so out of it. Like, she didn't deserve that. Like, her dad just wanted to get rid of her. Like, just send her. How are you sending Britney Spears to a mental institute? Like, she doesn't have anything. And that the fact that she found out about everyone fighting for her through it was like a reception lady. She was like, look at this article. Everyone's like, the fact that made her so happy. Like, her fans, they do recognize her.
But then it makes me think, like, her fans uproared because they thought they were getting hints from her. So
Mhm.
were they not on purpose hints, if you're surprised?
And if she was in that mental, like, what hints did they get?
And how did your father let you post on Instagram if he was so controlling of you?
Mhm.
That's where I'm just like, I need more details. And I had seen a documentary when the conservatorship trial was happening. I saw a documentary where they interview people that, you know, they knew her.
Mhm.
It was a reporter where she, like, something along the lines of, like, a reporter was going to get a one-on-one, or I don't know. I don't know if it was a reporter who was going to get a one-on-one. It was a reporter that had interviewed her previously, but was contacted by when she was dating that paparazzi guy that was like later married.
Yeah.
He was just like, I need you to go into this hotel. She's there. Meet her in the bathroom and give her like this attorney's number that she needs to call. Like, there's no way I could give it to her. I'm like, did that happen? Because she didn't mention it in the book. So now I'm just like, what happened? Like, there had to be so much more things going on for her to be able to have her own attorney.
Yeah. And why did she feel like it wasn't important to mention that? You know, like.
But I also think, like, there is a possibility because of everything she's been through, she has blank spaces and, like, you know, like, moments she doesn't
her
remember.
memory, yeah.
And just, like,
It's true.
wrapping up, did your perception of Britney change after reading this book?
Absolutely. I feel like we got to really understand her a lot more because we've only ever known what's been out in the media and obviously on Instagram, but there's no context behind what she's saying on Instagram. So I feel like this kind of, even when she says the reason why I post these crazy things on Insta is because I finally have the freedom to do so. There's that finally that understanding as to why she is the way she is.
It also, I think my perception changed because it's like her life is just so sad. Like, even as a child, being in an abusive home, witnessing abuse, verbal and physical, alcoholic father, mother that probably wasn't the best example because she would also get crazy fighting with the alcoholic, you know, and then kind of raising yourself to the point where you kind of like, you know what, I've succeeded a lot as a teenager, let me go back home, and then being confronted with like, I hate living here, I'm gonna go live by myself, and just doing whatever you wanted and maybe not the healthiest, and then all of a sudden everyone you were running from comes at you full speed wanting to take over your life, not be a part of it. It just made me really sad for her because
I am sad for her, and she even said, the fact that I haven't taken my own life, but she continues to fight every day, and that makes me happy because I really can't imagine a
and
world
plus,
without
she
Britney
she's
Spears.
very and a lot of that she credits to her religion, which I never would have thought she was so religious. Which I'm glad she has an outlet and some kind of like
something to turn to, because if she doesn't have her family, if she doesn't have a relationship, if she doesn't even have her kids, like, the fact that she can just turn to God, religion, anything that she follows, like, I'm happy that she at least has that one thing. And she has her fans. I feel like all she's ever had in her life were her fans,
Mhm.
and they've always cared about her regardless.
And this also makes me like, once I see her like crazy Instagram post, I'm not as harsh.
no, yeah,
about-
I'm like, live it up, Britney
yeah, I'm like, you know what?
Spears.
You keep spinning, girl. You keep spinning. But yeah, that's kind of a little recap again. Great read, easy read. It's
Yeah.
about like 270 pages, 5 hours on audiobook, which
Do the audiobook.
Yeah, do the audiobook. It's pretty good. And it goes by fast. It's like half a day.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, I think that wraps for our November pick, which was The Woman in Me by Britney Spears.
And let's tell you guys the book for December. We definitely wanted to go festive because it is the Christmas season. So our book for December is A Winter in New York by Josie Silver. I do not have anything in front of me that I could read for a synopsis, but you all can look it up.
Your classic rom-com, maybe
Yeah.
probably romantic.
It's like a Christmas movie, but in a book.
Yes.
So what's
we just
better
wanted
than
to
that?
end the year cutesy for you guys and get into the holiday spirit, and also make it an easy read just in case. We don't want to bombard you with
people are
100
busy.
pages.
Absolutely. And so, guys, obviously this is an audio version of our podcast. We are working as hard as we can to get the visual aspects up and ready for you. So we will keep you posted on that.
Absolutely. Well, thanks for listening, guys. We appreciate your time checking back in on us, and we'll keep you updated when we're back to our normal schedule. We're working hard to get back on. I want to say on air, but we're kind of online, right? But yeah, so just for any updates, just follow us on Instagram at Pop Off the Clock, everyone.
And I believe, yes, sorry. Bye.